There's a terrifying possibility that sometimes we don't know if we're loved because we ourselves don't exist. I know that sounds crazy, but stick with me here. This is a video for men only. If you're a woman, please do not watch. This is important. So what I'm about to tell you comes directly from the teachings of Carl Jung. Jung said that people unconsciously project their own unconscious fantasies onto other people, and then they fall in love with the person they've created in their mind, not the person who actually stands in front of them. Women are prone to doing this because their unconscious contains the animus. The animus is the Jungian term for the feminine, active, dynamic, emotional side of a man's psyche. It's the feminine counterpart within the male psyche. Because the animus has no direct access to reality, it generates fantasies based on the images and experiences stored in the personal unconscious. These fantasies are usually centered around a strong, passionate, and even dominating type of woman. This archetype often gets represented by an idealization of certain character traits, personality types, or even physical features. For example, a woman may develop an unconscious fantasy about tall, dark, handsome men, bad boys, or men in positions of power. She may not be consciously aware of this pattern, but it will drive her attraction to certain men and repel her from others. So the problem is that many women subconsciously seek a fantasy figure rather than an actual man. They're looking for someone who embodies the image in their minds, not a real person with flaws, weaknesses, and complexities. Men who don't fit into these fantasies have no appeal to them, no matter how good they might be in reality. And the worst part is that once she finds a man who fulfills this fantasy, she becomes attached to that fantasy figure. She falls in love with the idea of him rather than the man he actually is. Jung said that what women desire in a man is not the man himself, but the image they have created of him in their imagination. He goes on to say that the love women have for the object of their affection is not love for the person, but love for the idea they have of him. But why does this happen? Why do women subconsciously do this? Well, according to Jung, it happens because they live in a patriarchal world where they're constantly confronted with masculine power structures. This creates a dynamic where women tend to look for masculine authority figures to dominate them, which fulfills their unconscious desire for the anima and satisfies their longing for a strong guiding force. Now here's where it gets tricky for men. We often mistake being seen for being idealized. We think she sees us, but she's really just seeing the fantasy she's created. We feel validated and appreciated, but it's really just an affirmation of something she wants to see rather than who we actually are. We may even unconsciously play into this dynamic by performing the role of the strong leader or the brooding bad boy. We do this because it allows us to receive love and validation without having to show up as our true selves. But the problem with playing these roles is that eventually the fantasy breaks down and the performance ends. When this happens, there's an emotional collapse. It's like the rug gets pulled out from under you and you're left confused, rejected, and broken. Why did she stop loving me? Why doesn't she want me anymore? What did I do wrong? This is the crisis of love. And here's where things get even more complicated. Jung warned that when we allow another person to live out their fantasies through us, we run the risk of being spiritually possessed by those fantasies. We become a mere object for them to project onto, and we lose our sense of self in the process. Now, this doesn't mean that all women are like this, or that every relationship is a fantasy relationship. It just means that we need to be aware of the possibility and be willing to do the inner work to make sure we're not falling into this trap. The big question is, how do we know if we're being loved for who we are, or if we're just being loved for someone else's fantasy? Here's Jung's advice: look at her reaction when you reveal your true self. True love accepts the totality of a person, not just the parts that are deemed worthy or desirable. If she loves you for who you are, showing your true self will lead to a deeper connection, not a rejection. On the other hand, if she recoils or rejects you when you reveal your true self, it's a sign that she was only loving the fantasy you were embodying, not the real you. Let me put this another way. What if she was never loving you? What if she was only loving who she hoped you would become? What if the love she had for you was a projection of her own desires and expectations, not a reflection of who you truly are? What if the real you, the one you're afraid to show, the one you've been hiding, that's the you that she would have loved all along? What if the love she had for the fantasy was just an illusion, a trick of the light, a mirage in the desert of her heart? And you were real all along, but she never saw you because she was too busy looking for someone else in you. So how do we find the courage to be ourselves, to break free from the shackles of societal expectations and reveal our true selves to her? Jung's answer is simple yet profound. We must first confront our own darkness, our own shadow, and integrate it into our conscious personality. We must wholeness so that we can become one with our true selves. Only then can we break free from the cycle of seeking love through performance and finally experience the kind of love that Jung spoke about, the love that accepts us for who we are, with all our flaws and imperfections. Here's the deal. We're all broken, fragmented people trying to put ourselves back together. We all have pieces of ourselves that we've disowned and rejected. Jung calls this the shadow. To integrate our shadow means to confront the parts of ourselves we've denied and bring them into the light of our awareness. When we do this, we become whole, complete individuals. We reclaim our identity, our authenticity, and our power. And when we're whole, we don't need to be chosen. We already choose ourselves. Think about it. When you were a kid, before the world beat you down, before you started chasing external validation and approval, you were whole. You didn't need anyone to complete you because you were already complete. Being whole isn't about being perfect. It's about being real, raw, and authentic. It's about embracing all parts of ourselves, not just the ones we like. Jung believed that every person has two sides, the conscious and the unconscious. The conscious is the persona we present to the world. The unconscious is everything beneath the surface, our hidden motives, desires, and fears. When we repress certain parts of ourselves, like our anger or our sexuality, we create a split between our conscious and unconscious. And this split leads to fragmentation in our sense of identity. We become disconnected from ourselves, and we start seeking external validation to fill the void within. But true fulfillment comes from integrating our shadow, from embracing our true nature and living in accordance with it. Here's what happens when we start living from our wholeness instead of from our lack. We stop looking for love to complete us because we realize that we're already complete. We stop seeking validation from others because we know that we're worthy just as we are. We stop trying to be someone else because we realize that we're perfect just the way we are. And when we're radiating this kind of confidence, this kind of self-acceptance, we attract different kind of people into our lives. People who are attracted to us are attracted to our wholeness, not our brokenness. They're attracted to our authenticity, not our performance. Relationships built on wholeness are not fragile things. They're solid, grounded, and real. They're not dependent on external circumstances or the whims of other people. They can withstand the storms of life because they're rooted in the kind of love that Jung talked about. The love that accepts us for who we are, the love that doesn't try to change us, the love that doesn't expect us to be someone else. If you're ready to take this journey of self-discovery and healing, I challenge you to begin by asking yourself this one simple yet profound question. Have you ever asked yourself, who am I, when no one is watching?